Good morning. Welcome to Sunday school this morning, and we do have Brother Chris Taylor with us, missionary to Thailand. And how many years have you been there, Brother Taylor? Been there about 10. He was a pastor before that in Tennessee, and so he took over the work there for Brother Barlow was the man who started the work there. And so I've known Brother Taylor for most of that time. And actually right at the year after I visited the work, Brother Taylor then took the work over. And so praise the Lord for his faithfulness there. But Brother Taylor, if you would come and tell us about your ministry and what God's laid on your heart.
Okay, now I need to quit by
Give them some
10:30.
Yeah, give them some.
Okay.
Well, yeah,
10:20.
I want to give them some time for some questions.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Well, good morning. Let me see if I can multitask and get my computer ready to go. I could talk for a few minutes about my grandson and his big sister. And this is Mimi, otherwise known as my wife, and Lord willing, next month we'll celebrate 38 years that God's given us together, and we were blessed to raise 3 children together, and now we have 2 grandchildren, and this is the youngest of those 2, and but I didn't come to talk about my grandson, but anyway, okay, so I think that's got me ready to go. Give a little bit of introduction before we get started. And got a lot of slides that you'll see, pictures of our children and such. And I appreciate Pastor Alberding allowing us to come this morning. And many of you we've got to meet and speak to a little bit. And we appreciate the warm welcome this morning. And some of you that we may not have talked to yet, you might be wondering, where is he from? And my accent, it's a little bit out of place. Some of you are laughing, but that's okay. I don't take it personally, but it's real. It's not just Southern, it's hillbilly, and so I've created a new language, and this will make more sense to you when we talk to you about what we're doing in Thailand. But sometimes our younger children in the home, they're still learning Thai, and they pick up my accent. And in the early years, the teachers at the little school in our village, wow, we never heard anybody speak Thai like that. And then they heard me, and then they put things together. And but anyway, it is what it is. It's not put on. If I could fix it, I don't know if I would, but I know it's thick, and I never realized how thick it was until I heard myself on tape, and I thought, wow, you sound just like your dad. Well, now my little grandson in the picture, that picture's 2 or 3 years old. He just turned 4 years old, and he may have it worse than I do. So I don't know if he'll grow out of that or grow into it. I don't know. But anyway, as Pastor Alberding said, we've known each other for quite a few years, and from their days back in Pennsylvania. And we appreciate them, appreciate their family. And we were able to go over and visit for just a little while yesterday evening, and glad to see that Sister Mary is recovering from surgery and all. And good to meet Pastor Gary's mom and dad, and good to meet them. They're going to be neighbors with us, by the way, just about 5 hours to the southeast of us in Greenville and South Carolina. And so, but anyway, give you just a little bit of history. I had pastored my home church, which is our sending church, for about 9 years, and there in East Tennessee before God called us to Thailand. And we had been a supporting church of the work in Thailand that was started now over 21 years ago. And Brother Barlow, who had started the work, had invited us. And so in 2013, soon to be 13 years ago, we made our first visit to Thailand. And my oldest daughter, my youngest sister, and a young preacher and his wife, 5 of us made that trip and visited the children's home, stayed 2 weeks, and just fell in love with the work. And I tried to take my wife and my youngest daughter back later that year, and things just didn't work out. It ended up being about 1.5 years between visits. And so I had plane tickets bought and plans made and everything to go the second time. And Sister Barlow had a massive stroke. And Brother Barlow encouraged me to go on to Thailand, and I did. In the meantime, Sister Barlow had an amazing amount of recovery, but Brother Barlow soon understood that he would never be able to return to Thailand for any length of time. And so I came back in January of 2015, just a little over 10 years ago, and had a conversation with Brother Barlow. And the Thai people that were there had been with Brother Barlow since the beginning of the work. They were a lot of help, but not ready to really provide leadership for the home. And so Brother Barlow was having to make the decision whether or not to close the home. And some might say, well, the need is not the call, and it may not necessarily be, but in this case, I didn't feel like God wanted me to walk away from that. And so my answer to Brother Barlow is, please don't close the home. And I said, I don't know what I'm volunteering for, but let me commit to be there as much as I can. And so the rest of the story is, about 1 year or so later, Brother Barlow turned the ministry over to me. Now he still serves on our board here. We have a nonprofit corporation set up in the state of Tennessee to make it legal what we're doing, and we have a foundation in Thailand for the home, but we want to do things legal here as well, and so we have a board of directors for our ministry, and Brother Barlow serves on it. And I was sharing with Brother Gary, I guess it was last night, Brother Barlow and Sister Barlow, they're hoping to go back to Thailand next year. And their daughters may go with them. I hope they do. I would love for them to go. Brother Barlow will be 81 in February. He's a Vietnam vet and has had major heart issues since he was in his mid-30s from the exposure to Agent Orange and all that. But it would be such a blessing to have them go next year. And right now we're making tentative plans to do that and have a special youth meeting and maybe a special celebration, especially if we can get them there. But it'll be, next summer will be 22 years since they stepped out by faith. Brother Barlow had been a pastor in Mississippi, and out of his church was a missionary to Thailand. And through that, God worked in his heart, and eventually he felt the call, he and his wife, to go to Thailand. And so they did that in 2002. A lot of people said, "You're too old. You're too old." And again, his health not good, but they stepped out by faith. And God started the work that we're blessed to try to carry the torch on. And So that's a little background behind the ministry. Well, what did I do with my clicker? We'll get going, and maybe if I stand over here to the side, I could spend a lot of time, and Brother Gary, I really have to discipline myself, and I don't do a good job of it. The faces that you'll see, you don't know, but I know them, and there's stories behind every picture that you see, and I'll share some with you, but I have to be careful, or that clock it gets ahead of me. But some might criticize and say, "Well, you make it all about the children." Well, Jesus said, "Suffer the little children to come unto me, forbid them not, for of such is the kingdom of God." And Jesus gave one of the sternest warnings about those that would offend the little one that believeth in Him. And, I believe that children, especially in their innocence, in their youth, I believe they get very near to the heart of God and to the heart of our Savior. And when we reach out to those that really don't have much they can give back, that's when we're showing Christ's love. And so I don't apologize for making it so much about the children, and yet I don't want it to be more about the children than it is about Christ. And that's something that I struggle to keep in balance. I love them, and I'm okay with serving them and trying to be a dad to them. But we're there to serve Christ. We're there to get the gospel out. But the door that God gives us to do that is by serving these children and meeting their needs. But through that, we get into their villages, we get into their families, and occasionally we're blessed to see some of their people come to know Christ. And so Hilltop Baptist Children's Home is what it's known of as, and it's named in honor of the founding church. The Barlows are still members of that church in Riceville, Tennessee, and many of the board members of our work here are still part of that church. I believe in the church. I believe in the local church. And so we're church-oriented. We're in Chiang Rai, Thailand, which is the province that is the farthest to the north there in Thailand. And Hilltop Rongbur Baptist Children's Home Foundation, that's a sign at our front gate. We're in Rongbur Village, and we're about a 20, 30-minute drive from Chiang Rai City, which is the capital of our province. And again, the home was started in 2004. That's a picture of the home, and all around us are rice paddies. Now this picture goes back quite a few years, probably at least 15, 16 years. And all of the buildings that you see there, they're still there, plus one. God allowed us to actually finish a building that the Barlows had started, and it's now our church building. This, I don't know if you can see my little red dot, but this was at first it was the kitchen. It had a concrete floor, it had a block wall up halfway, and then bamboo from there up. And it started out as their kitchen. When they built the kitchen, then they translated this into a church building, and now it's a Sunday school building and just like a multi-purpose facility. But the boys' dorm is here, the girls' dorm is the middle building on that side, and then now the next picture, there we go. That's a little different angle, but now you can see we've got trees. Now, I don't know when Pastor Alberdine was over there those trees were little. And since then, they've had about another 12 years or thereabouts, 13 years, 14 years maybe now to grow, and we sure appreciate the shade. In Thailand, there's 3 seasons: hot, hotter, and hottest. And but anyway, but seriously, November and December are good times to be there. It's pleasant those months. But other than that, it is hot in Thailand. This is Brother and Sister Barlow, and again, they're my heroes. I appreciate what they did. If they hadn't stepped out by faith and kind of ignored the naysayers and did what God put on their heart, that work wouldn't be here, be there today, and I wouldn't be blessed to be able to do what I'm doing. And so the girl in the uniform, that is Jantra. Brother Alberding knows Jantra, remembers Jantra. Jantra was the very first girl that they took into the home. Now, where we are, we're in a rural area in Thailand. And Chiang Rai is the biggest city in our province, but it's just a small fraction the size of Bangkok. Everybody knows about Bangkok, Thailand. And where we are, you're not going to find children living in boxes under bridges or in ghettos like you might in larger cities. So when Brother Barlow went and God directed them about where He wanted them to start the work, they had the dilemma: how do we find children that are in desperate need? And so he went to the little school in our village, and the principal was taking him around to the different classes. And they were just beginning to do the excavating work on the property. They had rented a house, and Brother Suteen, who was 18 years old at the time, had been saved in a Christian children's home about 4 or 5 years earlier. And somehow or another, it just a God thing. Somehow or another, God put Brother Barlow and Brother Suteen together. And Brother Suteen was 18 years old. He had taught himself a lot of English. And he said, I want to do a work for God. So God put them together, and they bought the property. Brother Barlow and his wife, they rented a house not too far from the village. And Brother Suteen's younger brother, and another young boy. And then Jantra was the first girl that they took into their home before they even opened the home per se. But as the principal was leading Brother Barlow around, Brother Barlow noticed that little girl, about 6 or 7 years old at the time, and she had her feet tucked up under her chair, and he could see the bottom of her feet. Now in Thailand, they wear uniforms to school, and I like that myself, but part of their uniform is socks. Now they don't wear their shoes inside buildings, as a general rule in Thailand. And her socks literally had threads going across the bottom to hold them on her feet. Brother Barlow saw that, and he asked the principal, he said, would it be okay if we bought that little girl a pair of socks? Well, that opened the door for a relationship to begin. The next day they took the socks back and began to talk more, and Brother Suteen come to find out that her dad had died with AIDS. Her mom is still living with the HIV virus. We've helped Jantra get her to the hospital at time many years ago. She would tell you, Brother Gary, that I saved her life. And that might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but maybe not much. She was in pretty bad shape. And her mom at the time was with a man that was just evil, dangerous. And so Mom was excited. She was grateful. Now, I don't know why, but again, be careful not to try to put everything in American culture. Okay, we can't understand their mindset in a lot of ways. I don't know why she stayed with a man such as that. But anyway, Jontra was in danger being in that home as it was. And so Jontra ended up being the first girl that they brought into the home. I'm spending too much time, Brother Gary, but now Jontra is about 27 years old, and she's married. The tall man in the back is her husband. The 2 police officers are her younger brothers, and she's now in Ayutthaya, which is in the south. Jontra's an English teacher, and she has maintained her faith in Christ. And but anyway, we've got to move on. Our staff today, these 2 ladies are sisters. Now we've went through a lot of staff changes and issues over the last couple of years. We won't go into a lot of that, though we don't do anything in secret. You can't put everything in a prayer letter, but we don't operate undercover. We're happy to talk to anybody and answer questions. But God brought us these 2 ladies from the deep south earlier this year. They're sisters, and the younger of the 2 is widowed, and she has a son, 6-year-old Garcia. And then this couple, they came to work with us this year also. They're middle-aged, Brother Tom, and that's with a long O, if you can hear that with my accent. But Brother Tom is 51. His wife, Val, is almost as old as he is. And both of them have just been Christians for about 3 years. They were won to Christ under a ministry that we're familiar with. And so we're thankful to have these 4 as staff members caring for the children. Now this is the whole group of us together except for our oldest boy. And that rascal, I didn't notice it until the other day, but he was AWOL when we took that picture. But that's all of us there together. 27 children in the home, 28 with our staff member's son. Now this number is a little bit low, around 72 million people in the little country of Thailand. And the immorality, the acceptance of prostitution, the acceptance of, I don't know what they prefer to call it anymore, but men with men, women with women. I'm going to tell you, I know what the Bible calls it, and it's wrong. I don't care what society today says about it, but if you think it's bad here, you go to Thailand. And Thailand, their acceptance of it is just absolutely off the charts. It is so seen as normal in Thailand. And the sexual immorality, this is the product of it, and in a physical sense. Religiously, and you can look at different statistics. Thailand does their census every few years, kind of like Western nations do. And as far as the number of Thai citizens that'll actually check that they're Christian on their census, about 1 or 2%. And they've got Catholicism is pretty big in our area of Thailand, especially among the Hill tribe people. And all the isms and schisms that we've got in America, they've got there too. And probably way less than 1% of 72 million people really know Christ. And most of them, they've never heard a clear presentation of the gospel. And the pockets of Islam is mostly in the deep south, and though there's some in our area as well. But generally speaking, Thai people in their thinking, to be Thai is to be Buddhist. To be a good Thai is to be Buddhist. I noticed on your missionary boards you've got a missionary to Myanmar, and then a dear sis, I hadn't noticed it at the time, but a dear sis was talking to me about your missionary to Cambodia. And, the nations that surround Thailand, nobody has the freedom that Thailand has in that part of the world. Religiously, there is freedom. There is absolutely no persecution of Christians by the government of Thailand. And as far as the people of Thailand, they're friendly. Most of them will listen to you respectfully. It's just part of their culture. But very, very few will even consider that what they have always believed, that there could be anything else that's true. And so it's an easy place to work in so many ways. You're a missionary to Myanmar, you're a missionary to Cambodia. They're going to face a lot more dangers, a lot more hardships than what I face in Thailand. But spiritually, I don't know, but perhaps Thailand's more difficult spiritually. It's just hard to break through and get people to seriously consider that Christ is the answer. And but our children, let me go through pictures real quickly, from our oldest to our youngest, and then when we get towards the end, we'll tell a little bit more about them. We have children in the home from 5 years old. Our youngest girl, she will be 6 in January. And then we have 2, a boy and a girl, that will both be 18 next year. And so we've got a wide range. And we've got 3 that are juniors in high school. And so they've got a little over a year with us before they graduate high school. And beyond that, somebody asked me at the last church that we went to, when they graduate high school, then what? And that depends on their situation. But turning 18 is not a magic number that means they're ready to tackle life or graduating high school. And so it just depends on their situation. And we're hopeful that some of these days God's going to raise up of our own children some that maybe could even help carry our work on in the future. But this is our oldest boy. These pictures are from oldest to youngest. He is Law Pui, or we call him Bon. This is daughter Wan, also 17 years old. This is Buthal. She's 16, and I could tell you a lot about Buthal. She's been with us a number of years, and it's been about 3 years now. Buthal will be 17 next spring. And it's been about 3 years ago, she had an older brother who had been in prison from drugs, and got out of prison, and within a few months, he's probably drinking or on drugs again, had a motorcycle wreck, and ended up on life support in the hospital, and eventually died. And Buthal, we'd taken her to the hospital. She didn't want to stay with family. Didn't understand why, but she wanted to come back to the home. And so she did, and generally we don't allow our children to take their phones in their dorms, okay? And agree or disagree, that's how it is. And but that night, we knew her brother was basically brain dead. And so I decided to let her take her phone into her room in case she's got an older sister. And so the kids had all went to bed, and I went into the room where I stayed. And I've changed now, but Brother Gary remembers where the Barlows used to live. And I was still there then, and just right beside the girls', different building, but right beside the girls' dorm. And I don't live on Facebook, okay, but it's a good way for me to kind of stay in touch with people here. And so anyway, I had opened Facebook and saw where Buthal's sister had put a post on there that the brother had died. And so my first thought was, well, does Buthal know? And so I came out and I walked in front of the girls' dorm, and I could hear in there sobbing. And so I called to her and I said, Boothall, I said, you come out. I said, I can't come in. But I said, you come out. And she came out and just melted in my arms. And I stood there, I'm not exaggerating, for hours. It was at least 2 or 3 hours, and held her while she sobbed. And she had another friend came out with me. Everything was appropriate. But if she asked me one time, she asked me at least 50 times, John Chris, will I ever see my brother again? What do you answer? Well, what I told her, I said, Boothall, I can't answer that. You've just got to trust God to do what's right. Now, I get that side of it too, but, that was hard. It was hard physically, it was hard emotionally, and you can already tell I'm kind of easy to cry. And, I thought, man, I hope this don't destroy her faith. Because she had prayed for that brother and she had trusted God's going to bring him out. Well, God didn't. But, even through that, it seemed like, and she's had some highs and lows over the last 2 or 3 years since. But this year, man, she's really come out of it. In this picture, she's helping us teach younger children in a Saturday Bible camp. We did 12 weeks of Bible camp where we kind of like Bible school. And so she's, even through that, she's grew. And probably of all our children, boys and girls all together, probably of all our children, she's the one that is the most zealous about sharing her faith and telling other people about Christ. And so we're there to let them know Christ, and then we're there to disciple them and pray that God will raise up some soldiers for Christ to help reach their own people for Him. And to move on, this is Anek. Anek's been with us about 8 years. Of all of our children right now, Anek's been there with us the longest. This is Mia. She's one of 12 children that God allowed us to bring into the home this year. And we had gotten kind of low when, we went through some staff issues and such, but now we've been able to pick back up. But this is Mia. This is Buntiwa. This is Jumbo. This is Nam. This is Abu. This is Sky. His real name is Utapum. Now, most of the names I'm giving you are nicknames. Okay? If I told you their real names, by the time they come through this hillbilly tongue, you wouldn't know which way to go with them. But Sky is his nickname, and he helps us teach Bible too. Now, Sky's big for his age. Sky is 13, and and he's not got the outward, the outgoing personality, and when it comes to teaching and such, as much as Boothall does. But he tries, and he's got a heart for it. And I told him here a while back, when I was 13 years old, you couldn't have paid me enough money to get up and do what I'm trying to do this morning. And Sky, he's a good boy. He's only been with us about 2 years now, but about a year or so prior to that, we were doing ministry in his village. He got saved, and then almost immediately, his family put him in which his mom and dad's apart, and drugs and just different things. There's a lot of things that go into the story, but he almost immediately was put into another children's home, and then a year or so later, we were able to bring him to be with us. And this is Boy, and that's his nickname too. Siriton is his real name. But Boy He probably, as far as IQ level, he's probably the smartest one we've got. And he's small for his little age. I tell him, you're small in body, but you're big in heart. You're big in brains, and he is smart. He still holds the record, Brother Gary, for the biggest catfish out of our pond. And of course, him being so small makes it look even bigger. But it was probably 4 or 5 pound catfish, and we've got 3 ponds that we raise fish, and we eat a lot of fish. Usually, unless they're all too little, we usually eat fish at least once a week, and usually the kids are fishing and catching them out of the pond. Back in June, this is a picture from then. This is Boy's mom and dad. Now, I probably should have already said, with the exception of one girl, all of our children are Hill tribe. Okay, we've got Aka, we've got Lahu, we've got Lisu. Okay, there's other Hill tribes in Thailand also. And these are mostly people groups that migrated out of China, out of Burma or Myanmar hundreds of years ago. They settled in the mountains. And so they're referred to as Kwandoi, or hill people, mountain people. And usually they're the poorest of the poor. In those villages, there's drugs. A lot of them resort to trafficking drugs in and out of Myanmar. I don't know how many children we've had in our home who've had at least one parent that's been in prison over running drugs, but just extreme poor. Now, as far as Boy's mom and dad, that's not the case. Just very, very poor. About 2 years ago, Boy's mom had breast cancer. She had the surgery. She went through treatments. They thought they had it. Well, this year it came back, and this time it went to her lungs. And so back in June, on a Saturday, the day before this picture was taken, Boy's dad came on a motorcycle, and he said, "Can I take Boy home for the night? His mom's real sick." And so I said, "You can." I said, will you bring him back tomorrow, being Sunday, because on Monday Boy would have school. And so he said yes. Well, we were in Sunday school that Sunday morning, and I heard the motorcycle, and I looked out the window to the front gate, and there came Boy with his dad and mom on the motorcycle. Now, 3 on a motorcycle is nothing. You see 4 and 5 over there, don't you, Brother Gary? I'm telling you, they can haul 50-kilo sacks of rice, 2 or 3 of them on the back of those motorcycles. I'm telling you, they use them like trucks over there. But there they came in the front gate, all 3 of them. Well, as we was finishing Sunday school, Mom came in the church and sat down. Now, Boy's family, there's a little Catholic church in their village, and Boy's mom and dad always been Catholic. And been with us many times. Boy used to have an older sister that was with us. So we've known the family for, 15 years, I guess. And been there many times. And outside of the special Christmas programs that we do with our children, it never stayed for a service. Come in, sit down, and it's just different there. I'm telling you, if you're a preacher that's easily distracted like me, get over it. Get over it. I mean, listen, hang your sign up in the back of the church and tell everybody to turn their cell phone off, before service. Hey, that's a good idea. You ought to do that. I thought about mine this morning. I thought, well, I ain't got no service on it. It's not going to do anything anyway. Hey, listen, their phone rings, they'll answer it and carry on a conversation while you're preaching. I mean, it's just different, So why was I saying all that? But anyway, just, come in part of the service, get up and go out, come back, just whatever. Man, she sat there for the whole service. Well, we had a young man, Brother Tan is only about 25 years old, 26 maybe. My wife and I met him many years ago in Bangkok, and he had been won to the Lord by Missionary that literally took him under his wing. But anyway, just recently he surrendered to full-time Christian service. There's a ministry, a lot of people here know of Beams Ministries. Okay, there's another ministry that's very similar, Best Missions. And what they do, they have Bibles. Now, they don't do the translation work themselves, but it's all Bibles that have been translated from the King James Bible. But they're printed. They send Bibles to Cambodia. They send Bibles to other countries in our region. And so he has just this year begun full-time serving as a Bible distributor. He gets Bibles to us. He takes them to other missionaries, other pastors, other churches, gets them into other countries in our region. And just a precious young man, not been married but a year or so. But we had him there to come preach to us. And our children just loved him. And but at the close of the service, we went outside, and Boy's mom and dad had sat down at that table with Boy. And I said, Brother Tan, I said, this lady probably doesn't have long to live. And I said, we've shared the gospel with them many times. They're Catholic. And in those villages, being Catholic, or sometimes being what they refer to as Protestant. Okay, they don't necessarily know what Baptist means, a lot of them. They'll say Protestant. And a lot of times what it means is they're a mixture of Buddhist, Catholic, animist, which means devil worship, all mixed together, and most of them, they know just enough about Jesus to think they don't need to know anything more. And I'm being honest with you, in a lot of cases it would be better, it would be easier to reach them if they had never heard the name of Christ than to hear and think they know what they know and mix it all in with their religion. And so I said, Brother Tan, I said, would you take some time to share the gospel with Boy's mom and dad? We sat down and we spent some time, and and it was just a sweet time when the Lord really was working in hearts. And now I speak Thai, okay, but my version of Thai, some of them can understand me, some can't. I mean, it's just my accent does not help, okay, and I wish I could fix it. And I've worked on it. One of our girls, our children, helped out in a revival at a missionary friend's church in the city just last week. And two of our girls sent me a message, said there was a Farang there. Now that's what they call white foreigners in Thailand. Okay, that's just their name. Farang, it goes back to Francais. The first white people they saw hundreds of years ago was French. Francais. So it just stuck. I'm Farang. And she said there was a Farang there, and he spoke Thai just as good as Thai people do. And I said, I'm jealous. One of those two said, you can do it. Now that's Thai, I read Thai as well. And I said, no, I can't. I'm not going to live long enough to be able to speak Thai like you speak Thai. But God, and maybe it was just a special grace for that day. She understood every word that I said, or seemed to. And then Brother Tan, in their language, with no difficulties, was able to share the gospel. And so we was just working together. And I told them, and now listen, I believe in being blunt, speaking clearly, but we ought to be gracious about it too. And if we were where these people are, Most of us would probably be Buddhist or Catholic or some mixture. You know, if it wasn't for the grace of God, there's no telling what we would be. So, you know, and as we began to share the gospel, and Brother Tan's emphasis and my emphasis was, you know, you've got to trust Christ alone. It's not all this other stuff. And I told her, I said, listen, you know, in Thai culture and probably most Asian cultures, you know, you get into the ancestor worship and extreme respect for elders and things of that nature. And so Mariality, Mary worship, it is so easy for them to accept. Because in their thinking, Jesus was the son of Mary. And the son can't be greater than the parent. And so it's easy for them to accept the worship of Mary. But I told them sitting there that day, I said, the last thing Mary said in Scripture, whatsoever He saith unto you, do it. John chapter 2, I'm sorry. You know, and I said, it's not Mary. I said, Mary can't help you. Mary didn't die to pay for your sins. It was Jesus. It was Jesus. You've got to trust Jesus. They said, we won't trust Jesus. And both of them sat there at that table that day and prayed to receive Christ as their Savior. And within about 2 months, we got to visit her a couple of times in the home. And I asked her very, very specifically, are you still trusting Christ alone to get you to heaven? She said, Ajahn. Nejai. I'm sure. I'm sure. Within 2 months, God had taken her home. Now, all of our stories don't end that way. But thank God for the ones that do. You've got to hurry on. This is Bai Tui. This is Jae. Today is Jae's 13th birthday. We've still got about 2 hours in Thailand. That's still her birthday. 12 hours ahead of you guys. So it's 20 after 10 Sunday night there. This is Toto. This is Tachin. Kanomchin. Lana. Tongla. Ben. There's your name you can say. Ben. It's actually short for Benjamin, which is Burmese. I'll tell you about his family in a minute. But that's their Burmese rendering of Benjamin in the Bible. Benjamin. This is Kid, and he just became our second one to have a broke bone in the home. Just a couple of months or so ago, he just got his cast off a couple of weeks ago. This is Dean, another you pronounce. This is Gun. That's a nickname, and he is loaded. Okay, but we got to move on. This is Thon. Oh no, I'm sorry. This is Thon Cow, and this is Thon, and this is Ami, Anna, and this is our staff member's son, Garcia. They tried to name him the Spanish name for thank you, Gracias, and I don't have the heart to tell them they got the R and the A backward. But anyway, that's good enough. Garcia. And this is our youngest, Supaparn. And let me move real quickly. This is all of our grammar school boys that we brought in this year. And this is our girls, and then all of them together. This is all the grammar school children that are new in our home this year. And their school uniforms, when they still look new, and they don't look that good now, but they did a few months ago. And this is our staff lady, Pui, with her son. And now, when we can, we try to put siblings together. Okay, and I'm going to slow down with a couple of these pictures, and then we're going to be done. But I tell our children a lot of times in the home, God didn't build children's homes. God built the family. We need children's homes because families are messed up and families have needs, and it's not always their choices. A lot of times it is. Sometimes it's circumstances that's out of their control that makes what we do necessary. But God's plan is the home. God's plan is the family. And so when God allows us opportunity, we keep siblings together. So from here on, the pictures will be as such. This is a brother and sister. They actually had an older brother that was still in the home for a couple of years after they came into the home. And so at one time we had the three of them there together. Older brothers moved on. And this is daughter one and Jae, and again, Jae's birthday today. At one time we had three in the home, three sisters. And this is a good opportunity to explain to you maybe I don't know how to say it, a best case scenario. Sometimes I never refer to our home as an orphanage, okay? And sometimes I get asked the question, you know, are your children orphans? Well, define orphan. You know, some are orphan. We have had children in the home, continue to have, you know, who have no parent. You know, but sometimes that's by choice. Sometimes it's not because the parent has deceased. It's because the parent had no interest. And but in the case of these girls, we were doing ministry in their village. Then it was the first year we did the big Bible camps and basically taking vacation Bible school to the villages. And we went into their village and held a Bible school camp or Bible camp. And notice the first day. Now, we didn't know these girls before then. Okay, first day, and especially the girl in the pink, she's the oldest. She'll be 18 next year. Been with us since she was 10 or 11, maybe 11. But and man, she was locked in. She was interested in the gospel. Well, you know, I'd noticed a lot of times when you do things for the children in these villages, you get parents, grandparents. They want to see what's going on, so they get in the gospel too. Well, daughter one's mom came. Notice her the first day, second day she came back. She said, John Chris, she said, can you get me a Bible? And I said, yes, I sure can. But I said, let me ask you, have you trusted in Jesus? And she said, oh, yes. And she began to tear up, and I believe she's real, Brother Gary. We've got to know her well. But anyway, I showed her my Bible, my Thai Bible. I didn't bring it. We didn't have room to bring much this time. But and she said, oh no, I mean an Aka Bible. And I said, well, I'll have to see what I can find about that. But I said, I can bring you a Thai Bible. And she said, well, that's okay. She said, I read Thai. Well, about a year later, fast forwarding, she came to visit the girls who obviously we took into the home. And we were sitting and talking, and I said, have you still got that Bible that we gave you? And she said, I sure have. Said, I've read it through once. I'm going through it again. That was a year's time. I thought, wow, don't tell American Christians that. You know, I'd put them to shame. But she has a husband. She's not married to these girls' daughters, or these girls' dad, but she's been married for a number of years. Her and these girls' stepdad, they make an honest living. They gather tea leaves, they gather coffee beans. In Thailand, and by the way, the economy of Thailand, I believe Pastor Gary would see the difference in Thailand if you ever got to come back. Things has changed a lot in the 10 years that we've been there. And it's not as much of a third world country as it was when you were there. It's changing little by little. It was last year, I think, they raised the minimum wage. Now in Thailand, the minimum wage, mostly agricultural type workers or construction, low level, we'd call it, minimum wage about $12 a day. A day. Now that works in Thailand because food's cheap, basic necessities is cheap. If you buy a vehicle, you pay the same money you would here. For fuel, you pay the same money you would here. But for basic necessities, things are cheap. And most of the time, these hill tribe people, if they're making an honest living, that's the kind of money they're making. Well, the mom came to me before that week was out, and she said, I've got these 3 girls. And she said, daughter one, I don't remember, I think 11 years old at the time. She said, they're growing up. She said, I don't want them to follow their friends doing things that their friends do in the village. And she said, we have to go where the work is. They have to go where the work is. Gathering tea leaves, gathering coffee beans, gone 3, 4, 5 days a week. If the girls are going to go to school, they have to stay in the village. They can't go with mom and dad. And she said, I want them to be somewhere they can learn about God. Now, that's just how she said it. Now, how could I say no? Now, are these girls orphans? No. They probably got the most functional family of any of our children. But there's a legitimate need. And, these girls, they know Christ. Daughter one's an excellent student in school. She sent me her GPA just a week or 2 ago. I showed it to Melanie, 3.91, I think it is. Man, she's sharp. She's sharp. But that's their story. Move on real quick. Anek and Abu, this is Sakai, and Anna, his little sister, would probably be put in that Catholic children's home where we brought him out of, had we not taken her into the home as well. She came in this year. This is Kanom Jean and Kid. These 4, Supaparn, our youngest girl, she had been with us for about a year, now about a year and a half. And this year we was able to bring her 3 brothers out of that Catholic children's home. And there's some sweet boys too. And they're Toto teaching little sister how to ride a bicycle, or trying to. These 5 children, okay, and I've got to quit on this. They're new to our home this year. The boy in the red is first cousin. The other 4 are siblings. And they are the children of this mom and dad who came from Burma, from Myanmar, about 2 years ago to pastor a church in a small village. Okay? Now, the church, we're familiar with it. There's a lady in the church came to us with the need and told us about their situation. They had put these children in a children's home because they're poor. The little church probably don't pay them just barely enough to live on. They live in a tiny storage building. Storage would make up maybe half of this platform in the back of the church. They've got 5 children, no money, come from Burma, and Burma's much, much worse off. They've been at Myanmar, been in the middle of a civil war for years, and so they'd put the children in another children's home. It closed abruptly this spring, and these children weren't even going to get to go to school had we not taken them into the home. And as far as doctrine, it's hard to communicate. They speak Aka and Burmese. The children have had to learn Thai over the last 2 years since they've been in Thailand. And but they've been a blessing to us. The little boy in red, the nephew, Ben, just got saved just about a week before I come back from Thailand. And so we've got a baptizing waiting on us when we get back over there. And Lana, tell you her story, and I'm going to quit. It's 10:30 already. Okay? I'll stand around after church if we don't get all the questions. But Lana, she's new to the home as well. Her story, they probably don't even know who Dad is. Mom is still in the area. They know who she is. But she literally gave Lana away as a baby. And now the man that had taken her into the home is in prison and will probably be there for decades because of the things that he did. And so here's Lana, or what was her real name? Brali is her real name. Lana is her nickname. And so this is, when I'm in Thailand, my heart's there, but it's here too. And when I'm here, my heart's there. This world's too big. But God's blessed us with this opportunity and these children that have real needs in their lives. A few of them, and I don't demand it or anything like that, but a few of them even call me Dad. It'd be hard for them to give me a bigger honor than that. So I'm blessed with that. But again, our main purpose is to get the gospel to them, let them know Christ, and then do our best to disciple them. Our kids are, I could hold up my Thai Bible if it was here. Our kids are in that book every day of the week. Every day of the week. We got morning devotions every day except Sunday before breakfast, and we got evening devotions before we put them to bed every day except Wednesday and Saturday. And, we got them in the book. And I'll tell you some stories, some of them kind of funny about that, but want to be faithful to do that. And we appreciate so much you allowing us to share what we've tried to share with you this morning. But again, that's why we're there. These three little girls, by the way, got saved during our 12 weeks of Bible camps. These are three little Lahu girls from the little village out past the children's home. Brother Gary, remember that. And this is a lady that came in to help us with our Bible camps. And that's my sweetheart there at what they call the clock tower in the heart of Chiang Rai. Brother Gary remembers that. Surely Brother Jim, Brother Barlow took you to see that. And but anyway, questions?